This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
And welcome everybody to another Pinky in the Brain episode of the Animaniacs.
Oh, Brain Goody, you're back! I've made a yummy dinner. Food pellets with food pellets.
Please, Pinky, I've had a very tough day.
Oh, you have? You've had a tough day. You! What about my day, Brain? We always hear about your day, but what about mine? The boss this and the boss that. La-di-la-di-da. Nerve! Do you ever ask what I did today?
Very well, Pinky. What did you do today?
Can't remember.
And welcome to the Animaniacs. We are the only podcast to talk exclusively about the animated series, Animaniacs. And you're probably asking, what are we going to do tonight? The same thing we do every night. Try to talk about Pinky in the Brain. We're going to revisit all the cultural references and gags. And of course, in the end, we're going to give this episode of Pinky in the Brain, parentheses, an Animaniacs spinoff, a water tower rating. I am Joey, and joining me once again is my brother Nathan.
Oh, very funny. You're a regular Gallagher.
You think Gallagher is funny? And across the country in Georgia, it's Kelly.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Well, today we're talking once again about Pinky in the Brain, and or was it an episode of The Office? I guess I wasn't quite sure at some points. No, of course, this is the brain's journey into the real human world, and he gets to get a job at a reinsurance company in the Pinky in the Brain second episode of Mouse and Man. And let me just ask you two, what would you say to somebody if they were to ask you about what Of Mouse and Man was like? Nathan, what would you say?
It's like getting a job, but just like it's like if the brain got a job at a 9-to-5 job.
Oh,
like that's yeah.
He was working 9 to 5. What a way to make a living. Kelly, what about you?
I was excited to see the suit back that he used in Jip parody.
That's true. And I was thinking about it earlier, and is this only the second time that we've actually seen that suit?
Mm-hmm.
It's insane to me. I just think they use it probably. I just remember seeing it a lot, and I'm assuming that it must just be in other episodes of Pinky in the Brain.
Yeah, I know he for sure uses it in other episodes.
Did he use it in the Fort Knox episode?
No, because he just
in the car.
Yeah, he just wore a suit.
Oh, Pinky was helping with the gears and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then like in Bubba Boba Brain, he has stilts. So
yeah.
So this wonderful suit does make its return, which was nice to see. Well, let's go ahead and get into the first major question that I have. And that, of course, is to Nathan. Nathan, tell us, when did Of Mouse and Man first premiere?
Oh boy. So this episode premiered on Sunday, September 10th of 1995, which was just one day after the premiere episode, which I talked about already last time we did Pinky in the Brain. So, the Emmys were on this day. Frasier won. NYPD Blue was the best drama. The Tonight Show for the variety comedy series. So, nothing really interesting.
Why would you run anything against the Emmys, though? I mean, I guess today it seems like I always know when the Emmys are on, not because I'm necessarily interested in watching them or the Country Music Awards or whatever. It's just whenever I'm like trying to watch The Simpsons and it's like, oh, it's a rerun tonight. Why is it a rerun? Oh, that's right, this award show is on. And then I'll maybe watch the award show if it's good or not. But it seems so weird that the WB would want to show a new episode of Pinky the Brain against the Emmys. But I don't know.
Maybe just for the kid audience.
I guess. Although this is, and we'll get into it in a little bit, this was really the most adult I've seen Pinky and the Brain act. This seemed like much more for an adult audience than usual.
It was a lot more prime time.
Yes, it really was. And I think we still have to find out what the heck's going on with the timeline because, of course, with Tom's recollection of the Pinky and the Brain premiering, and even I've seen stuff on YouTube, Nathan, where they're talking about Pinky and the Brain, the premiere episode, and they're showing Das Mouse, and it's, I believe, Sunday night. So I'm just very confused about. I guess they technically reran it on Sunday night, perhaps. Like it premiered perhaps on Saturday morning, and then they showed it again Sunday night, which even sounds weirder because, I mean, commit to a genre or an audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you a Saturday morning cartoon show or are you a Sunday night show? Pick it. You don't see The Simpsons on Saturday morning and then Sunday night again. Like, weird. Whatever. The WB was just getting started. I guess we can't be too hard on them, but
I'm hard on them.
All
I
right,
think they
good.
shut down business right now.
All right.
There should be
Get that?
no more WB network.
Okay. Well, good job, Nathan.
What? Did it work?
It worked. They're not around anymore.
Oh, wow.
Good
I
job.
feel bad.
All right. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, Dad, this is Pinky, and you're listening to Animaniacs. You know why? Because you're going to take over the world.
Narf!
Well, before we get into our discussion, we have a special announcement. Coming up on July 18th, Animaniacs in Concert is coming to San Diego Comic-Con. So that's pretty cool. But you know what's cooler, Nathan?
What?
Is that we're going to be there too.
Oh, like you and me?
And,
Anyone else?
Well, I figure, Kelly, can you go too? Can you?
I have a ticket.
Yay! Then yes, we're gonna all be there at Animaniacs in Concert in July. I think it's July 18th, right? Thursday, July 18th. Am I getting this right?
I didn't buy the
Sounds
ticket.
right.
I believe it. Well, yeah, you haven't paid me for the ticket, by the way, Nathan. We'll talk about that later.
Did
Anyway,
you get my money for the ticket?
yes, we did. Yes, I did. I got your money.
I haven't paid yet.
Well, we're all going to be there in the front row. And this is going to be a really awesome show because, obviously, it's always a great show. Wherever Animaniacs in Concert happens to go, it's definitely worth seeing if they come to your town because Rob Paulson and Randy Rogel are so ultra super talented and also two of the nicest people you might actually meet. In fact, we have a whole segment about Rob Paulson being one of the nicest people on earth. But these California shows, they tend to have other guests as well. I would
Steven
say,
Spielberg?
well, you know what, Kelly? Maybe. I don't want to put your hopes up too much, but this would be one of the shows that I would think if Steven Spielberg were to show up, maybe it would be this one. Let me explain. Jess Harnell, I would think, probably going to be there. Tress MacNeille, I'd say, yeah, probably going to be there. This is all the benefits of being in California. Maurice LaMarche, probably going to be there, right? In fact, in one of the descriptions, I think it said Rob Paulson, Randy Rogel, and cast, or something, or cast members is one of the descriptions I saw for this show. Well, you know what's coming up in about a year is this Animaniacs reboot, and they tend to have announcements about upcoming properties at San Diego Comic-Con. Wouldn't it make a lot of sense to put Steven Spielberg at San Diego Comic-Con?
I mean, he's been there twice before.
So, I mean, it could happen. I think, no, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but
But it should.
It should.
I'm saying it's gonna happen. No.
We will will it into existence.
Yes. Oh my gosh. If we're going to be in the front row. If Steven Spielberg walks up on stage, I don't know what we're going to... Kelly might explode. Like, there might actually... explosion of hearts just like... everywhere.
Kaboom. Kelly Kaboom.
Kelly Kaboom. Well, so this will be a really awesome show. And this is also going to be the first time that all three of us have been in the same room together.
I know, right? We were on an escalator once at a convention.
Exactly. I met Kelly in person, passing on an escalator at Star Wars Celebration, and that was about it.
Yeah.
So this will be, and Nathan, I see way too much of Nathan. So
Yeah, I've met Joey when I was born.
yeah, isn't that
But-
great? see, I've had many years with seeing Nathan in person, but this will be great. We're all going to be there. So if you have not yet gone, if you've not yet purchased your tickets, I should say, you totally should. And we'll have the link in our show notes so you can get them on Ticketmaster. And I'm not quite sure if it will be open to the general public or not when this show comes out. So if it's not, here is the code to get in. It's YAKKOPINKY, all one word, YAKKOPINKY, and you can actually get access to the pre-sale sale for the tickets. There's the VIP seats that are close up, and quite frankly, that's the ones to get, because you get to meet Rob Paulson and Randy Rogel, and who knows who else afterwards, to get autographs and ask questions and everything like that. So that's what you want to do, and meet us there. We'll say hi, and it's going to be super awesome. So we hope to see as many listeners as possible over there at San Diego on July 18th. Well, let's go ahead and get straight into our discussion of Mouse and Man.
This is Maurice LaMarche, the voice of the brain, and you are listening to the Animaniacs.
And Of Mouse and Man was written by Peter Hastings, and it was directed by Adu Payton, who, by the way, has been on our show and is an incredibly nice guy. And you should listen to that episode, ladies and gentlemen, because he gives out so much interesting information. I really felt like a lesson in animation talking to him. Anyway, hope to have him on again soon. Kelly, why don't you tell us what happens here in... this is a half-hour episode. So why don't you just tell us what happens in the first third of Mouse and Man?
Well, Brain is up to his usual task of trying to take over the world, and this time he gets this harebrained scheme to do something with voicemail and decides he needs a ton of money to pay for it.
Utilizing satellite technology and these, we will redirect all global telephone communication into an endless voicemail system. And once a person is on the line, the array and amount of choices will render them occupied, busy, and unable to defend the Earth for a full 72 hours. More than enough time for a well-prepared mouse to seize control of the planet.
I see. So, all we need is a well-prepared mouse.
I am that mouse, Pinky.
Oh, well, there you are then. Job well done, Brain. No.
And he even has the exact amount. It's like, and I don't remember it. It's like
I wrote it down.
1,615,000.
Ooh, so close. 1,614,000.
Oh,
So
okay.
close. So close.
I was close. So, then they see he and Pinky see a commercial on TV from a lawyer, and he's like, oh, if you sue, you can get money, and, have you been injured in an automobile accident? And then they have all these testimonials, and this lady, who's now a piece of fudge, says that she got over $100 and some change, and then there's a gravestone that says that the name of the lawyer got him like $300 or something.
Have you been injured in an on-the-job accident?
You may be entitled to hundreds, thousands, even $1,614,000 in compensation.
So Brain decides to come up with the money. He's going to get a job. I mean, this is a very multi-layered plan going on. So he's got to get a job first, and then he's going to concoct a scheme where he fakes an accident so he can get workers' compensation through the courts. And his plan's going to involve a microwave and powdered non-dairy creamer or something.
Yes.
I think, yeah, non-dairy creamer. And he gets the suit out, and like I said, I was excited because that was what he wore on Jeopardy. And
Hey, God, Brain, are you all right?
Yes. Fortunately, my chest cavity is constructed of a titanium alloy.
Oh, be sure to mention that in your job interview.
so he goes to the office and has his interview. He goes to shake the guy's hand, and he punches his arm through the desk, and the guy seems actually kind of impressed with it, the interviewer. And he starts asking him some questions, and Brain says that he went to Harvard, or his resume shows that he went to Harvard and Princeton. Has something like 6 years in the business, very impressive. And everything's going really well. And then right at the close of the interview, the guy comments on his small head. And Brain says, well, it's very, very common in my race. And, a good interviewer would take that as an indicator, to shut up and stop, because now you're going to get into some legal trouble. But the guy said, that something about you people, or your people, and that was even worse. And now he's digging himself a hole.
One more thing. About your head.
Yes?
Isn't it rather small?
No, not for my race.
No, of course not. Your race. Because your people are such good cooks, with their little heads and all. Please, excuse me for 1 second.
He runs out the door and tells the lady outside the office to send everyone home. He's got himself a minority. And by then I'm just like so cringy, because it's like, this is the worst human resource debacle I've ever seen. And but Brain gets the job, and I mean, at that point he could sue for discrimination or something.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Yeah, he takes the job and begins work.
Well, there we go, and that is the end of part 1. There's a lot of the stuff that goes on in here, so let's just talk about some of the cultural references. First of all, I gotta mention, I did show this episode once again to some of the kids in my after school group today, and one of the kids got so excited. They're like, "Oh, is this she speaks Spanish with her parents, of course, at home. So she's like, "Is this the Spanish version?" I was like, "No." She's like, "Can you put that on?" I was like, "No." And I guess what they call them in the Spanish language version is Pinky y el cerebro. I'm totally messing up the brain part right there, but basically instead of
cerebro.
Yeah, cerebrum, basically. Yeah, cerebro. Yeah, and then I looked at the French version, and it's minus, or the French pronunciation of minus, which is like minot or something like that. It's a minus and the cortex. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Anyway.
Wow.
So the cultural references that I saw that kind of stood out. Number one, the whole voicemail thing. That's not as much of a hassle, I guess, for people today. I mean, it's still a pain, but I would almost put like spam or something like that instead of, voicemail. And even that's not even necessarily voicemail. The system that he he put for everybody wasn't necessarily voicemail. It was more like I don't know what you would call it, like a automatic directory or something like that would get people lost and stuff, but whatever. I guess the biggest thing was probably the Gerald Ford pardon.
Hey, Godbrain! Brilliant! Oh, wait, no. Isn't that horribly illegal?
Yes, but once I rule the world, I will return the funds and then have Gerald Ford pardon me.
And that, of course, is in reference to Nixon being pardoned by the then president, Gerald Ford. I guess you could, if you really wanted to get nitty gritty, you could get into like there's a Sigmund Freud mention in this one about him having a field day with Pinky. And Pinky's very like, oh, he likes sports? That's interesting.
I thought that was hysterical.
But that's pretty much it, I suppose. Jeffrey Tambor, might as well mention that he does play the boss right there at the end.
Was it me, or did he kind of look like the guy in the Michigan J. Frog cartoon?
You know what? He kind of looked like that to me. He also kind of looked like maybe a mixture of the guy from the Michigan J. Frog cartoons and Daphne Coleman from 9 to 5.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like a little bit of both. But anyway, his name is Beetle Fierro. That's the name of the character's name. So Jeffrey Tambor, by the way, probably best known for playing on Arrested Development, the father on Arrested Development. What's his name again, Nathan?
Which father are we talking about?
Jeffrey Tambor's character.
Okay, Jeffrey Tambor is I can't remember his name.
Oh, you're the one who watches it. I can't even believe it.
George Bluth. There we go.
Thank you.
I can remember his son's name was Job, which is because he's named after his father. It's weird.
Yeah, so Jeffrey Tambor, very at the time, no controversy at all around him. Today, yeah, I don't know. He probably goes into many human resources offices these days. But there we go. So, what were some parts that you thought were particularly funny or really stood out? Let's start with you, Nathan.
I liked when Pinky got his head in a walnut.
Pinky, we stand on the threshold of world domination. You have a choice. You can listen closely and provide assistance, or you can find your head compressed inside a walnut shell.
World domination, walnut shell. World domination, walnut shell.
Well, which leads me to one more thing I forgot to mention. The music that plays is the Nutcracker Suite. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which I thought very cool.
Yeah, it's a nice little extra tiny gag or something. So.
Yeah, always listen to the music when these cartoons, always those extra gags, which I love. Kelly, what about you?
Well, you said the one I really, really liked was the field day comment. That was too funny.
I'll give you one that I really liked, which was when he asked about, do you have any wife and kids? This is the question that gets the first guy kicked out of the job interview because they're looking for people with no lives.
Now, brass tacks, are you married?
No, I do have a roommate, but he's very busy with his own activities.
It flashes over to Pinky, who is putting on lipstick and then kisses himself in the mirror, and that was just hysterical to me. Pinky's so funny. Really, there's just so many jokes. I listened to this first part especially is there's so many subtle. It's just written really well. Peter Hastings, just each line is written it's almost subtle punchlines in a lot of ways. It's just written really, really well.
There must be a way to get this money without running for Congress.
Like the fact that people would be on the phone for 72 hours.
Yeah.
Straight,
70 hours. People will not give up on this. They won't just hang up. For 70 hours, they're going to be tied up on the phone, and that'll give them more than enough time to take over the world. I like how the brain just kind of leaves that next part kind of like up in the air. Like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
The main thing
they'll
is
be
just to
busy.
yeah. Well, it's kind of similar to a lot of ways, like just the classic things of just tying people, magnetizing people to the ground or things like that. It's like, you got to figure out a way to just stop the humans from doing what they're doing somehow.
But Brain, the script distinctly said...
All right, you two, no fighting during the commercials.
Oh, please. This isn't fighting. We're rehearsing.
Greetings, Persons Perusing Podcast.
Are you looking for something a little different for your Star Wars-themed shows?
Then join millions of others who now proudly call themselves scoundrels.
I don't think it's millions, Taxus.
It has to be close by now. After all the word of mouth and interwebs, nothing exists in a vacuum, Dennis.
Space does.
I'm not sure what this space vacuum you're talking about is.
Never mind. So if you're looking for a unique show for news, hot space opinions, unique discussion points with our hypotheticals, or Taxus' musings with Saber Clash, then tune into Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels with me, Dennis Keithley.
Me, Jay Krebs.
And me, your humble little Dark Lord of the Shtick, Darth Taxus. From failed bits to musical guests to dancing Wookiees, you never know who might drop by.
You really never do.
So start your engines, fire up your sabers, hold on tight, and join us.
For Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
Part of the RetroZap Podcast Network.
Kids WB presents the latest fashion craze.
Oh, Brain, I told you rubber pants would come back in style.
Pinky, if you had a mind, it would be a terrible thing to waste.
Only a mechanical suit can make a fashion statement that says, I'm a mouse and I'm ready to take over the world.
What statement do rubber pants make?
I've never been potty trained.
I'm sorry to hear that, Brain.
The next time you take over the world, wear the outfit that says,
I'd like to thank all the little people I stepped on to get where I am today.
Suit up with Pinky and the Brain today on Kids WB.
Remember, one size fits all.
Let's go ahead and move on to the second third. The middle third. Nathan, tell us what happens here in the second part of the cartoon.
Brain has a job now, and he's got his own cubicle, and the boss has gone over all the rules and regulations. The sexual harassment, of course, is the largest section, but as long as he doesn't interact with anybody, he'll be fine.
Here's the company policy on vacations, on personal phone calls, and sexual harassment. Don't worry about this. You're safe as long as you avoid all contact with humans.
My goal in life.
I hear you.
What a mollusk.
He's unpacking his little things, and he's got a bowling trophy and some pictures of, like, Pinky, and the guy in the next cubicle is like, hey, you got a mouse? And then turns out that guy feeds mice to his snake. And then Brain ends up going tennis playing with him for no reason. Anyways, basically Pinky and the Brain are almost like a married couple. Every time Brain comes home, Pinky's upset that, he never asks how his day went. Everything's about Brain always. And when Brain's on the subway, he meets some hooligans. So he has to fight.
Look at this. Hey, we got a freak here. Are you some kind of freak?
Actually, I'm a lab mouse involved in an intricate plan to take over the world.
Oh, very funny. You're a regular Gallagher.
You think Gallagher is funny?
Don't mess with me, man.
Wow, you should run the police department, man.
Oh, I will, my friend. I will.
And then he's back at the office, and he meets an attractive employee, and they're kind of flirting with each other. But then his suit's been acting up, and he accidentally grabs her and picks her up. And she's like, "Hey, are you flirting with me?" And he's like, "No, I don't find you attractive at all."
Hi, I'm Gina Fallow.
I'm the Mr. Brain.
Oh, why, Mr. Brain, are you making a pass at me?
No, I promise. I honestly don't find you attractive in any way.
You creep! Let go of me! Let go!
Oh, dear.
And then as he's walking away, the boss calls him in the office and says, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And he's like,
I'd like a word with you, please. In here, now.
I can explain, sir. The young lady seems to have misunderstood me.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's your resume.
He calls him out for not having gone to Harvard or Princeton, so he has to go get his diploma. So instead, he just fakes the accident where he puts some creamer in the microwave and yells that he's been turned into a mouse, and everyone comes in and sees him like that. And that's the end of the second part of this episode.
Help! Help! Oh, help! A terrible occupational disaster! Help!
What?
I've been maimed by an on-the-job accident requiring massive workers' compensation. I've been turned into a mouse.
There we go. Yes. Yeah, it's really amazing. No one knows how those things work. It really worked for bringing those people out. Well, yes, this was, I guess the thing that really stood out, I mean, when it comes to cultural references, the whole Gallagher stuff, I don't know if people know who Gallagher is. It's kind of, I take this for granted that we have a lot of audience members that are relatively young, and you say Gallagher and they're like, who? Let me explain, children. No, let me explain. Gallagher was this guy, and he would tell these, I don't know, I think he wanted to be like George Carlin a little bit, like he wanted to give lessons about life and not the things. But really what it came down to, what people really wanted to see him do, which was smash fruit. And people would sit in the front row and have these giant tarps and get splattered with watermelon. And that's Gallagher.
It was fun to watch.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of his comedy, but I remember the watermelons.
Yeah, I remember as a little kid in elementary school thinking, oh, this is really funny stuff. And my dad going, oh, this is not funny. So I guess my dad agreed with the brain right there, but whatever. Now, I've never seen the Star Trek movies, but isn't there a scene that's kind of similar to this with Spock in a subway where, Spock gets assaulted by like a Mohawk guy, and I think Spock takes care of him. I think it's Star Trek 4, I want to say, with the whales, right? Does this sound familiar to either of you?
I've never seen.
I don't see Star Trek.
Well, that might be a connection, or maybe not. But it was a similar scene. That whole scene actually, I felt like could have been almost deleted from this. And also like you were saying, Nathan, like the tennis scene.
Yeah, the tennis has no point in the episode.
It's funny. But both scenes are funny.
You should play golf.
But really, when it comes to cultural references, I guess Gallagher was the main one. But Kelly, what were some things in this second part you thought were funny?
Well, once again, y'all mentioned the one that I thought was really funny was the Gallagher one. I thought it was funny how the sexual harassment rules or documents were so tall compared to anything else, and and I kind of feel like around this time was when that was becoming really a big thing in the workplace.
Yeah, this is really where the show, I think, kind of got more for like wink, wink at the adults who are watching, because there was the whole Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill hearings that happened in the 90s. And so sexual harassment was like this new thing. And it's so ridiculous that it's still only until like it seems within the past couple years things have actually changed a lot, because the stories my wife could tell about her places of work, it's horrible.
And my mom, of course, way back when, it was the worst.
Yeah, and there's just like nothing.
I think my dad actually went and talked to one of her bosses one time.
Wow.
It was so bad. I mean, because that's really all you can do. It's like, I don't think people back then, you could really lodge complaints or have it dealt with. And because back when my mom was working, it was mostly men in charge still.
Yeah.
And total boys club back then. And so, yeah, she had some crazy stories. But, yeah, times have changed. And So I just thought it was funny, just because it's like vacation doesn't matter, and you know, nothing else is important, but this is a priority. And because it's like, well, vacation is also a priority. Thanks. And then the guy who feeds the mice to his snakes. It was horrible. I mean, it was funny because the way Brain reacted, but it was also the visual I got when he made that comment was not a good one.
Nathan, what about you? Any other things in this second part that you liked?
The things that Pinky gave him were kind of funny. The best lab mouse, and he has to take off the tape that says that. And just a picture of him with a family, just a taped-on face of him and generic wife and kid. I don't know.
And just the fact that the humans are just so stupid, and they just buy it. They just go, uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And Pinky is the housewife at home making dinner. Food pellets with food pellets. It's like, oh, Pinky, you're so adorable. He's a funny guy. Well, let's go ahead and get into the third part of today's cartoon. And, well, this is where it gets real. This is where it's like the people's court. Because the Brain says to his boss that we're going to take, I want this $1,614,000 in compensation.
We won't pay.
In that case, my friend, I'll see you in court.
So they go off to court. We have a quick cameo, by the way, of the Goodfeathers. They're outside on the, justice statue. Because of course you got to put them out there. And inside, we have a Judge Ito-ish type of judge. And if you don't know who Judge Ito is, then you never watched the OJ trial because, well, he was the judge. And a Christopher Walken type, I guess he's the defense for this, isn't he? Because the Brain would be the plaintiff, and so Christopher Walken would be the defense attorney, defending the company. And he basically goes into court, and the defense basically alleges that the Brain is not a mouse now. He has not been turned into a mouse.
Well, yes. I noticed his furry head, and I believe that's typical of his people.
And what people would that be?
I'm not sure. I think they're from Europe. Or maybe France.
Objection, Your Honor. The size of my head, and if I was a man before the accident, is not the question here. The fact is, I am now a mouse.
Your Honor, I intend to prove that Mr. Brain is not a mouse, but simply, and also sadly, just an odd-looking little man.
And the Brain actually has evidence that his skeletal structure has turned into a mouse, but the x-rays have mysteriously vanished. Little does he know, Jeffrey Tambor's character actually got rid of them in exchange for lingerie to give to the doctor.
There really is only one conclusion here. This man is a mouse.
I'm afraid the only conclusion here, Doctor, is that you have never seen these. I think this might keep you quiet.
It might.
Another very weird cutaway scene. Right in the middle of the trial, Pinky comes in and talks about the suit, being at the company still, and the Brain realizes, oh, well, you better go get the suit and, get that out of there so nobody finds it. If somebody finds it, then they'll know. So, of course, Pinky has to go get it. And, after a little bit of getting caught in a vending machine, he does break out and start heading back to the courtroom.
I contend that Mr. Brain is simply too intelligent to be a mouse.
But no, I'm not intelligent. I'm a simpleton, yes. Like any average mouse. Narf.
So, you would have no problem with me saying that Albert Einstein was a champion surfer?
What? I mean, no.
Or that the temperature of the sun is a comfy 70 degrees Fahrenheit?
I wouldn't know.
Or that the Fermi Dirac distribution function is a soup kitchen?
That's preposterous! Your Honor, the Fermi-Dirac function is, for any system of identical fermions in equilibrium, the probability that a quantum state of energy E is occupied. My word, man, don't you know your quantum statistics?
The brain is unfortunately, however, diagnosed, or at least deemed to be a human, and he is found guilty and of fraud and also like being naked in public. So he's going to be arrested, but right at the last second, Pinky in the suit comes in, just breaking everything down. He uses the titanium alloy chest to crush the guards, or at least knock them out. And then they escape by, the brain, I believe, is stuck at the bottom of Pinky's shoe. Back at the lab, they bandage Brain up, and so they can tomorrow night take over the world. There you go. There was our last segment. Poor Brain. Go figure that this plan wouldn't work. But let's talk about a few other little quick cultural references. There was Court TV. They mentioned Court TV, which isn't around anymore. Today it's True TV, which, just for you, little history of that, for that cable network, it went from Court TV, where they showed courtrooms, like live courtroom, all day, every day, and maybe like what is the equivalent of like investigation discovery shows. And eventually, though, that Court TV turned into True TV, where it was like reality TV shows. But now, thanks to shows like Impractical Jokers, I would classify True TV as more of a comedy show, or comedy channel, almost like a Comedy Central light. But, yeah. The biggest cultural references that I could find, though, is actually in the jury box. If you look at the foreman of the jury, it's this blonde guy with a beard, kind of curly-ish hair. And I was looking at the wiki before watching the episode, and they had mentioned that Adu Payton makes an appearance in this episode. And they said, oh, he's the guy who looks at the brain when the brain turns into, the mouse in the Dairy Creamer and gasps with the rest of the people. And I looked at that and I said, it doesn't quite look like him. So I kind of kept my eyes open, though. Like, well, maybe Adu Payton is in here someplace else. And wouldn't you know it, I saw a guy that looked a lot like him in the jury box. So what do? You tweet Adu Payton. So if you're not following Adu on Twitter, you should be. He's at Adu Payton. And I asked him, are you the juror? And he said, yes, I plead guilty. I was the live model for the jury foreman, a character design by the supremely gifted Rogerio Nogueira. The guy in the doorway as that guy, he said his smart money is that he is the animation director Charles Visser, one of the tallest humans ever to tell a story with a pencil. So thank you, Adu, for that clarification. And yay, for me, I saw him. And I felt so proud of myself. Well, let's go and talk about any last moments that we thought were cute and funny in this last segment. Nathan, let's start with you.
Christopher Walken. It's pretty funny, just having a voice.
He is funny. And I don't think there was many people doing impersonations of him at this time.
Yeah.
So
nowadays, it's everyone has it.
Yeah, everybody. Kelly, what about you?
I thought it was funny when the doctor was looking at the x-rays and the boss crumpled up the paper and, said, you never saw these, and, is this enough for you to say that you never saw them? And he opens up a suitcase and you think, oh, it's going to be a bunch of money. No, it's like a corset or ladies' lingerie, and that was completely unexpected.
Again, yeah, that was, we're talking much more adult than we usually are.
And I just like that he says, it might. Instead of saying,
the way he says it might. And the smile, just everything about that scene was just very funny. The smile on his face, his voice. Yeah, very cute stuff. And but yeah, nice to see that the show was going a little bit more adult, but not necessarily more risque or anything like that, but just definitely aiming towards an adult audience more for this one. I will say that when I was watching that scene with the students after school today, one of the boys just kind of looked up at me like, what the? When that guy took out the lingerie, he was like, whoa, what the heck? Anyway, let's go ahead and get to our water tower rating. Well, what do you guys think? Out of 5 water towers, how many would you give this episode of Pinky and the Brain? Kelly, let's start with you.
I think I'll give it 4. Maybe 4.5. Again, it's so hard to say because I didn't watch really Pinky and the Brain. So I don't have a lot to compare it to. So I don't know if there's
last
better
week's episode.
Well, yeah, it was better than last week's episode, I think. But I also really enjoyed the well, not last week's episode, but when we did the last episode.
Yeah.
I thought it was they were both good episodes, but I thought this one was better. So I am going up. But yeah, I'll keep my 4.5 because I really enjoyed it. It was funny all the way throughout, and it did have a little bit more adult humor, and I've always enjoyed that the multi-level approach from Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain, where adults get it and kids it kind of just goes right over their heads, but they still enjoy it. They don't know what they're laughing at, but they still enjoy it, and so I always like that. And yeah, I think 4.5.
All right, Nathan, what about you?
I'm gonna go with 3.5. I gave last week's episode 3, so I'll give this one 3.5 because I also enjoyed it more. And I love the suit, but then again, it's like it's been done before. I mean, they're gonna do it a bunch, so I can't just award it every time for doing a suit. I guess I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead. Gosh, Kelly, you almost talked me up to a 4.5, but I'm gonna go with my initial gut instinct and give it a 4. I'm going to go right in the middle of you two and just give it a 4. I really did like this episode. And like I said, it's one of these episodes where you can just listen to the audio of it and just really enjoy it. It's written so well and it's just so funny. And as an adult, it's just so relatable in some ways and just so outdated in other ways. Just the whole job interview really felt so cringeworthy. Like, oh God, who is this guy interviewing him? But yeah, it was good. I really liked this episode. So 4 for me. That's an average of 4, right? Right? Sort of. Whatever.
It's good.
Sure. Why not? I'll be right in the middle. I'll let the statistics people figure that stuff out, not me. Well, before we move on, we have to get to a special segment, and this thing is called Corrections. Nathan, hit us with the Corrections theme song.
Oops, I said something wrong. I made something up, or something else happened. It's the correction part of the show.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
That was awesome. And
I loved it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, Nathan, what did we say, or I should be more specific, what did you say that was incorrect in our last episode?
So I was all excited because, there was that whole double drat or triple drat that Porky Pig says. Wait, Hampton Pig says. We should do another correction on this episode. But anyways, I mentioned that Don Messick's role in Hanna-Barbera was doing both Dick Dastardly and Muttley, but it was actually Paul Winchell did Dick Dastardly and Don Messick just did Muttley. My confusion was because there's a show called Dick Dastardly and Muttley Adventures or something. And I'm like, oh, he did those, but he just did the show as Muttley. And, I just didn't read. I don't like reading.
Yeah,
it's a whole
for
thing.
suckers.
But Emily Santoyo,
Santoyo, I believe. Yes.
Toyo. She corrected. She was she knows her things. I do not. So.
Well, thank you, Emily. And she did it. Of course, Emily's a sweetheart, and she corrected you in the sweetest way possible. So yeah, we always like it when we make a mistake and someone's so nice about it. They're like, actually.
Yeah, no, we need fact checkers, and unfortunately, our listeners have to be the fact checkers.
Unfortunately, but hey, that's audience involvement. I think it's great.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need more mistakes, I think, actually.
Yes.
All right. Well,
every episode, we'll put a couple mistakes in, and you guys try to find them and little Easter eggs for y'all. So
I like it. Okay, well, thank you, Emily, and sorry about the correction, everybody, or mistakes or whatever. It's in the past now. Before we wrap things up, Nathan, tell us it is your choice. You're in charge of Freakazoid. So
all right.
Freakazoid's on the rotation. What episode should we all watch before next week?
Okay, well, we did episode 1 last time. We're going to jump all the way to episode 2. Candlejack, Toby Danger, and Doomsday Bet, and The Lobe are all in that episode. So, it's going to be interesting. I wonder how Kelly will feel about this episode.
Yeah, there's a definitely a very weird one in the middle right there that but John McCann, who's been on our show, as mentioned, he likes that one quite a bit. If you're into weird obscure stuff, then next episode of Freakazoid, well, really every episode of Freakazoid is for you if you like weird obscure stuff. So I'll talk about episode of 2 of Freakazoid next week. Quick reminder for everybody that Nathan and I are going to be at a panel at Phoenix Fan Fusion.
What is that?
That is what used to be known as Phoenix Comic-Con.
Oh, don't say that. You'll get sued.
Thank you very much, San Diego. No, it's now Phoenix Fan Fusion. So you'll be able to see me and Nathan make the trip. Well, for me, make the trip up, and for Nathan, making the trip east to Phoenix. And we're going to have a panel all about Animaniacs, and that'll be on May 25th at 10:30 a.m. And Kelly will be in Disney World, so she'll be having a lot of fun there. But we're gonna have fun in spite of it, I suppose. Not as much fun as riding on teacups, but close.
And no, there's nothing compares to riding on teacups.
Well, let's go to get to some contact information. Nathan, where can people find you online?
Well, I'm on Twitter, DjangoFD, that's me.
And Kelly, what about you?
I'm on Twitter as well at Yoda Princess, YODAPRNCSS, or email me, Kelly, at BigShinyRobot.com.
All right, and as for the Animaniacast, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And if you really want to get in contact with us and just have chats about whatever, like Nathan and I were doing Young Frankenstein stuff on it the other day, and I don't think anybody got it but us. You should join the Discord channel of RetroZap, and you can get a welcome link by simply going to discord.animaniacast.com, and you can talk with us as well as other hosts of other RetroZap podcasts and other RetroZap writers as well. What RetroZap podcast, you might ask? Well, there's us, the Animaniacast, but there's the ArgCast, there's Brews and Blasters. We have a whole suite of superhero podcasts. We have the Deucecast movie show, the Dork Lair talking about toys, the Dunecast talking about Dune, Kanata's Castle, Starships, Sabers and Scoundrels, and Brews and Blasters, which I think I already mentioned, right? No? Maybe not. Kanata's Castle, Starship, Sabers and Scoundrels talking about Star Wars, Techno Retro Dads, talking about all the techno and retro and newsy, nerdy stuff. Warp Trails talking about Star Trek, and We Know Nothing talking about a little show you may have heard of called Game of Thrones. You can actually subscribe to the Retro Zap podcast feed and get every single one of those podcasts delivered straight to your device for free. Whoa! Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up for today. So, for Nathan and Kelly, this is Joey saying, good night, everybody!
Good night, everybody!
Good night, everybody.
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, Tiny Toon Adventures, Freakazoid, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds are registered trademarks and or copyrights of their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animaniacast unless otherwise indicated.
Working stinks.